Okay. Okay, so we're talking about Rabbi Gamliel says, here, let me just share the Gemara with you. Here you go. Okay, so we have in the Mishnah, in Psachim Kuftes Zion, okay, back, here we go, the bottom of the Amud. So Rabbi Gamliel says, Kol shelo amar shlosha dvarim, Rabbi Gamliel hayomer, Kol shelo amar shlosha dvarim, elu b'Pesach lo yatsa yidei chovas. Okay, so the person has to say three things on Pesach, Pesach Matza U'maror, and then the Mishnah goes and explains the tam, brings different psukim explaining the tam for each of those mitzvahs. Now, the Pashut question that we start off with here, it says that if you don't say these three things, lo yatsa yidei chovaso, you're not yotze your chova. So the question here is, which chova are we talking about? There's some chova, you have some obligation, some responsibility, and the only way to be able to say that obligation, that responsibility, is by saying these three things: Pesach, Matza, and U'maror. Okay, so what do you guys say? Which chova are we referring to when we say that if you don't say these things? And the Rashbam seems to imply that when we say these things, we mean explain the tam behind these mitzvos. And if you don't do that, then you're lo yatsa yidei chovasa. So which chova are we talking about? Go ahead, guys.
Mitzvah Yitzias Mitzrayim.
Okay, so I heard a few people suggesting mitzvah of Sipur Yitzias Mitzrayim. Okay, so there's a mitzvah of Higgadah Telubimcha. There's a mitzvah of reciting the Haggadah. So it seems that Rabbi Gamliel is telling us that this is an intrinsic part of the mitzvah of Haggadah. The mitzvah of Sipur Yitzias Mitzrayim on Leil Tesvav must include this requirement of saying these Shlosha Dvarim. Okay, does anyone have an alternative shot? What other chova could we be referring to? No, if that's the only possibility, then we could all go home early.
Eating korban pesach, eating matzah.
There you go. Excellent. Okay, so the alternative possibility is maybe it's talking about the chova of each of the mitzvahs. You have a chova to eat korban pesach, to eat the matzah, and to eat the maror. So the alternative explanation could be that lo yatsa yidei chova, you're not yotze the mitzvah of eating the pesach, matzah, and maror unless together with the eating you say something. Okay, we'll see. It's not entirely clear if this shot is it referring specifically to explaining the tamei mitzvahs, or do you just have to say that now I'm eating the pesach, now I'm eating the matzah, now I'm eating the maror? But there is some aspect of dibur that something needs to be said together with the ma'isa achila in order to be yotze the mitzvah. Okay, that is the alternative side in the chakira. Is that when Rabbi Gamliel says that this is essential for being yotze yidei chova? Which chova? The chova of Sipur Yitzias Mitzrayim, or the chova of each of the individual mitzvahs of achilas, pesach, matzah, and mar. Okay, that's the chakira. Okay, what's the nafkamina in this chakira? What would be a nafkamina, depending on how you which of those two pshatim you learn?
Well, if you
What's that? Who's talking?
Me.
Which me?
Yosef Silver.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. So what could be an nafkamina in this chakira?
Well, if you ate Pesach Matzah and Maror and you didn't say these things, did you fulfill your mitzvah of Pesach Matzah and Maror?
Okay, so what would be the nafkamina? That's the chakira. Is which chova are you not yotze? But what nafkamina l'maisa would come out of it?
When you explain it?
What?
When you should explain all the reasons and
when you should say these things. Okay, very good. Okay, what is the proper time when it says that you have to say these things? So if it's part of the Haggadah, so then you would say it as part of the Haggadah. If it's nogea to each and every mitzvah, so then you would have to say each one in its proper time. When you're eating the Pesach, when you're eating the matzah, when you're eating the maror. Excellent. Okay, very good. So the face value, the simple ha'ara, is just the seder of the Mishnah is now in the discussion of the Haggadah. Okay, so there are according to point out just from the simple flow of the Mishnah, we're in the middle of the discussion of the Haggadah. So it's very mistaber that we're talking about saying this as part of the Haggadah, which would seem to imply that is the chova of Sibur Yetzias Mitzrayim. Okay, good. What other nafkaminas? What other practical nafkaminas totally in this chakira? Okay, just to give you a little context, the person who brings this chakira most explicitly is the Binyan Sion, which is the Aruch LaNer. Okay, he suggests this chakira, and he gives he suggests one nafkamina that's totally in this, and the acronym discuss other possible nafkaminas. Okay, so I forgot who was it started saying before that that you weren't Yotze the mitzvah of Achila. Let's just take that a step further. Perhaps you could say that there would be a chiyuv to do it again. Okay, that would be already a practical nafkamina. If you ate and you didn't say Pesach zu al shem shepasach al batei avosenu, do you have to go and eat another kazayas of Pesach? Do you have to eat another kazayas of matzah with the amira saying it properly? Okay, that's just taking that idea and taking it a step further and turning it into a nafkamina. Okay, other nafkaminas? Any other suggestions?
If somebody didn't eat these three things,
Explain.
if he spoke about it, but he didn't eat these three things, so if you have to say it over the eating, then he wouldn't be Yotze. But if he spoke about it separate from the eating.
Okay, good. What if you do the amira without the achila? So what would be let's take that a step further. Okay, but anyway, you would have to eat it. You would have to eat the Pesach Matza U'maror mitzad, the mitzvah of eating it anyway, right? So what would be a nafkamina l'maisa between the two pshatim?
Whether you Yotze at all about talking. I mean,
okay. I think the key when you're going, let me just take it a little bit different. So the nafkamina binions, I'm sorry, not the binyan sins. So one possible nafkamina is bisman hazeh, right? So if it's shayach to each of the mitzvos, so bisman hazeh that there is no mitzvah of Pesach, so then there would be no mitzvah of the divor of the Pesach, right? You don't need to say Pesach since anyway you're not being Yotze the Pesach. We just have to make sure everyone's muted here. Second, who got off mute? Can somebody, whoever's got off mute, if you could just get yourself back on mute, please. Okay, fine. So that is the first nafkamina is bisman hazeh. Do you still have to say Pesach if anyway you're not being Yotze the mitzvah of Pesach? Okay. The nafkamina that the Binyan Sion himself brings is, he says, what about Pesach Sheni? Okay. Pesach Sheni, it only has dinim that are nogea to the Korban Pesach. Okay. So the din of eating Pesach with al matzos u'marorim applies, but all the other dinim that apply to Pesach, it's not Pesach, it's only dinim that are nogea to the Korban Pesach that apply. So the Binyan Sion brings this nafkamina that if it's a din in the mitzvahs of achila of Pesach Matza U'maror, so then on Pesach Sheni you would also have that mitzvah. But if it's a din of Haggadah, so Haggadah is only on Pesach Rishon. There is no mitzvah of Haggadah of Sibur Yetzias Mitzrayim at Pesach Sheni. Okay, so that's another nafkamina that he brings that would be totally in this chakira. Okay, so let me just I'll speak this out already outside, and then we'll start to see the shitas of the Rishonim. L'chora, what another aspect that's nogea to this chakira is what is this lashon of Shahaya Rabbi Gamliel Haya Omer? Okay, it's an unusual lashon. It doesn't say Rabbi Gamliel Omer. This is Rabbi Gamliel's statement. It says Haya. He would say this. So what does that mean, Haya Omer? That he would say it. So we have a similar lashon we find very commonly in Pirkei Avos. Hu Haya Omer. He would say this. Okay, so in Pirkei Avos, the Mefarshim explain Hu Haya Omer means that it's not something that he just put on the record once. Hu Haya Omer means that it was like a margula b'pumi. It was something that he would constantly mention. It was something that he would constantly refer to. Okay, so in that context, you could say Rabbi Gamliel Haya Omer. He used to say this constantly. Okay, what does that mean? So if you're learning that it's part of the Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim, so then it fits in very nicely. Hu Haya Omer, he would always say this. In other words, Rabbi Gamliel, he didn't just teach this in the base medrash. At his seder every year, he would make this declaration. Everyone has to be yotzi this the chova of saying these three things. Okay, and just practically the bottom line, the end of the day, the Mishnah Berurah paskins that everyone needs to come in, even if the let's say the women are working in the kitchen to get ready for Shulchan Aruch. So you have to call them in for this part of the Haggadah because the Mishnah Berurah takes on that Yulur Yatzal Yedei Chovasa means the Chova of the Haggadah, and this is an essential part of the Haggadah, and therefore everyone needs to listen. So it could be that that's the pshat Hu Haya Omer, that Rabbi Gamliel would always make this point during the Haggadah that everyone needs to make sure to say this part of the Haggadah because it's essential for being Yotzei Yedei Chova. Okay, that is that's one way of learning Hu Haya Omer. The other way, Lefi the other side of the Chakira, is if you learn that it's totally in the mitzvahs, so then to say that you're not Yotzei Yedei Chova without saying these three things, that only was true in the times of the Beis HaMikdash when there was a Korban Pesach. But in the times when there's no Korban Pesach, so then you don't need to say Pesach anymore because you're not being Yotzei the mitzvah of Korban Pesach. Okay, so Hu Haya Omer then has a totally different meaning. He used to say this. Okay, and Rabbi Gamliel was actually this borderline generation. He was the generation that lived both during the times of the Beis HaMikdash and continued to live afterwards. So the Hu Haya Omer then would be a historical. Rabbi Gamliel used to say that you have to say three things, but then Bizman Hazeh, you really only have to say two things. So then why is it in the Haggadah? So that in Hakanami, the Shibbolei Halakha, it says that some things in the Haggadah are historical. Just like we say, Kol Dichvin Yesei V'Yifsach, we invite people to come and eat our Korban Pesach. So even though we're not really eating a Korban Pesach, that's just a historical reference that stays as part of the text of the Haggadah. So according to that, when we say in the Haggadah, so this is Hu Haya Omer, this is historically what Rabbi Gamliel used to say, even though Bizman Hazeh, it's only nogea to say two of the things. Okay, so that's a nafkamina, so to speak, in the explanation of the phrasing of Rabbi Gamliel. Okay, so what do the Mefarshim actually hold? Okay, so the most Mefarsh on this Lakira, okay, I'm going to put it up for you, is the Meiri. Okay, the Meiri says very, very clearly here that Shaloi Hiflig Besipur Zeh B'chtei Haroi. It also means that he didn't explain the Sipur of the Haggadah properly. Okay, LMK appears time and Shalosh Elu. This is an essential part of Haggadah. Okay, if you look in the Torah's Chaim Haggadah, where they bring the different Rishonim, so the Ravan also says very explicitly that this is talking about the mitzvah of Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim. Now, why would this be Lo Yatzei Yedei Chovasa? So first of all, there's a Ran, and that's the mashmos of the Meiri also, that when it says Lo Yatzei Yedei Chovasa, it doesn't mean literally that you weren't Yotzei Haggadah. It just means that you didn't do it properly. It's saying that you didn't do a proper Haggadah. You didn't explain Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim properly if you left out these important details. Okay, but the Binyan Sion explains that it could be that it's actually ma'akiv. It's actually an essential part of the chiyuv, and that's what the Mishnah Berurah seems to take on. Now, where would that be learned from? Why would you say that this is an essential part of the Haggadah? So the Gemara Darshans, it says, "Ba'avur zeh lo amarti elo b'zman Pesach Matza U'maror munachin lefanecha." That the mitzvah of Tzibur Yitzrayim is when these things are on the table in front of you. So the Binyan Sion explains that it could be that's more than just teaching us the time of the chiyuv, but it's also teaching us something about the essence of the chiyuv. That the essence of the chiyuv is to say the Haggadah in the context of these three mitzvahs. Okay, so that Ba'avur Zeh is telling us that the mitzvah of Sibur Yitzrayim, Yetzias Mitzrayim, includes the Sibur of explaining the tamim behind these three mitzvahs. Okay, so Lefi the Meiri and the Maskana of the Binyan Sion and the Ravan on the Haggadah, it's clear that this is an essential part of the mitzvah of Haggadah. Whether it's ma'akev mamish or whether it's just an important part, but it has to do with Ba'avur Zeh, that this is the definition of the mitzvah. Okay, now Lamaisa, the Achronim bring that it's quite clear from the Rambam that he also is taking on like this side. Okay, there are a few aspects of the Rambam. First of all, in the Rambam, even more than the Gemara, we can be medayik the Seder Advarim, that the Seder that he brings is the order of the Haggadah. In other words, he's in the middle of Madchel B'Gnus Misayim. I'm sorry, hold on just one second. Yes. No, better not. Never mind. Okay. Okay, so what we're saying, yeah. So the Rambam, first of all, he says he puts it in the order of the Haggadah. Second of all, he emphasizes the tezvav. He says kol shalom shloshah dvarim elu below chamishasar. Right, the Mishnah says on Pesach, and he fills in B'leil Chamishasar is clearly referring to the Leil HaSeder. Okay, so in the Nafkamin of the Binyan Sion, so the Rambam seems to be emphasizing that the chiyuv is only in Pesach Rishon and not Pesach Sheni, which again fits with the idea that it has to do with the Sipur and not with the actual mitzvahs. Okay, and then also the end of the Rambam, Dvarim Ha'elu Kulo Hein Hanigrin Haggadah. This is all part of what's referred to as Haggadah, meaning part of the mitzvah of Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim. Okay, so the Rambam also seems to be taking on very strongly like that side. Okay, so that side we have a very strong, clear mahalach in the Rishonim, the Meiri, the Rambam are saying that it's part of the mitzvah of Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim, like most of you guys took on the pashtus. Okay, now do we have Rishonim that are clearly saying not like that? That are clearly saying that it's part of the mitzvah itself. Okay, so first of all, look at the Tosfos on the sugya. Okay, the Tosfos is a little bit tricky. It's not entirely clear what he means, but we can get a general idea of how he's looking at this. Okay, the Tosfos says, "V'amartem zevach Pesachu pirush be'amira shetzarich lomar Pesach zeh shanu ochlim." Okay, the Tosfos says that it's learned from this pasuk is V'amartem zevach Pesach that you need an amira. Okay, now is this talking about Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim or is it talking about the mitzvah of Achilas Pesach? So look at the Hemshech. He says V'itkash Matza U'maror Pesach. It's our lomar nami Matza zu marozeh. Okay, so he says that there's a hekish between Pesach Matzah and Maror. Now that hekish is in the mitzvos. The hekish is within the mitzvos. So you can say if there's a chiyuv amira that goes along with the mitzvah of eating the korban Pesach, so then you could say that there's a hekish that the mitzvah of achilos matzah and achilos maror also have a chiyuv of amira. But if it was a din in Haggadah, so just because there's a chiluk of Haggadah that involves talking about the korban Pesach, that's not a reason why we would have a chiyuv in the Haggadah regarding matzah and maror. Okay, so we seem to see here that the mitzvah of Pesach matzah and maror is has to do with each individual mitzvah, and therefore we can make this hekesh that if there's a din of amira, and it's not even clear, the Tosfos doesn't mention anything about tamei mitzvahs. It sounds like the emphasis is just that you need to say this is a korban pesach. When you eat it, you need to just define it. This, I'm eating the korban pesach. I'm eating matzah. I'm eating maror. Okay, it's not even clear if it's a din of tamim or if it's just a din of awareness. The marsha is mashma that it's a din of mitzvahs tzrichos kavana. That it's somehow a form of the din of kavana for mitzvahs, that you need to have kavana that you're doing the mitzvah, and it could be that it's adding on that part of the kavana of the mitzvah is that you also need to understand the tam of the mitzvah. Okay, usually when we say mitzvah strichos kavana, usually we're just saying that you need to have kavana that you're doing the mitzvah, but there are mitzvahs that the Torah itself tells us the tam, and then it becomes a chiluk of the kiyuma mitzvah that you need to have kavanah for the specific kavanas that the Torah gives. Okay, so this, for example, is well known on Sukkos, that you're supposed to have specific kavanah that the Sukkah is zecher l'ananei hakavod. Okay, so that could be that the Tosfos is saying al derech that in these situations where it's mefurish in the Torah what the tam is, so that becomes a part of the mitzvah of the that becomes a part of the mitzvah of the sipur. Okay, now so again, so we have on the one hand we have the Meiri and we have the Rambam saying that it's part of the lo yatzidei chavasa is referring to the chovas haggadah, and on the other hand we have the Tosfos that seems to be saying that it's talking about the chova of each individual mitzvah. Okay, now on the tzad of the Tosfos, we also have the Ramban. There's a Ramban in Melchamos in Brachos that has a havamina. He said he has a havamina to say that if you didn't say these things, that you would have to go back and eat the Pesach Matza U'maror again. Okay, that's what we were mentioned when we were giving the list of. So you're raising your hand? Is it? Oh, you're just adjusting. Just adjusting your thing. Okay, so the Ramban actually has a havamina that if you didn't say Pesach Zu, then you would actually have to go back and eat the Pesach again. Okay, so that clearly shows that it has to do with the specific mitzvah and not with the general chiyuv of Haggadah. Okay. The Ramban ends up being docha that based on what we said before in the Ran, that the lo yatzidei chova isn't literal, that it's not mamish ma'akev, it's just a preference, it's a lechatchila proper way of doing the mitzvah, but not actually ma'akev. But from the havamina of the Ramban, that he has a havamina to say that you would have to go back and eat the Pesach again, clearly the Ramban in that havamina is understanding that it's a chiluk of the mitzvah and not a chiluk of the general Haggadah. Okay. Now there is one disclaimer that maybe we could kind of minimize this whole machlokas, because we've set it up the whole time that it's very, a classic chakira. It's either this side or it's that side, right? One or the other. Okay. Now the room maybe to minimize the machlokas is based on a Ramban in his Asagos to Sefer HaMitzvos, that the Ramban in his Asagos to Sefer HaMitzvos has a havamina to count Haggadah and the mitzvos of Achilas Pesach Matza U'maror as one mitzvah. He equates them. He says that it's like Bikurim and the bringing the Bikurim and the Amira of the Bikurim, I forget the technical term, the kriya, the kriya of Parshas Bikurim. Okay, so the Ramban says that there's a havamina that you should count them as one, but Kamash one that we count them as two separate mitzvahs. So what we see is that maybe the Ramban's perspective is maybe there's not really all that much difference between the two starting, because the Ramban seems to learn that the mitzvah of Haggadah itself is closely related to the mitzvahs of the achil of the Pesach and Matza U'maror. So even if if the Ramban would learn that it's a chiluk of the Haggadah, he might still have a havamina that you wouldn't be yotzei the achila because he learns that it's two parts of the same mitzvah. Okay, so I'm just bringing the Ramban in the Sefer Mitzvahs perhaps to minimize the binary nature of this machlokas, that we're presenting it as either this or that, either it's part of the Haggadah or it's a chiluk of the meisim of the Leil HaSeder of the Pesach Matza U'maror. The Ramban in the Sefer Mitzvahs seems to learn that the two are really closely connected, that the tzad of the mitzvah of that really the Amiras Haggadah is itself a part of the mitzvahs of the Pesach Matza U'maror. Okay, so that is a reason why perhaps we don't have to make it such a stark machlokas one way or the other. Is it Haggadah or is it mitzvahs? Maybe it is Haggadah, but the Haggadah itself is part of the mitzvahs. Okay, so that's those are the shitas that we see in the Rishonim. Let me just close off with a very brief Divrei Agadata. Okay, the Maharsha, when he explains Lefi the Tzad, that it's a part of the Asiyas HaMitzvos that you need to say these, you need to say the Tamei HaMitzvos. So he explains that why would it be that in general we don't need to understand Tamei HaMitzvos? You can put on tefillin, or maybe tefillin is one of the ones that where the Tam is mentioned. Whatever it is, you can shake your lulav. I don't know. Generally, when you do mitzvahs, you just need to know that you're doing a mitzvah. You don't need to know the reason behind it. So why is it then, Lefi the Maharsha's understanding, that here it's a din in the Asiyas HaMitzvah that you need to be Mekayim the mitzvah with an understanding of the Tamei HaMitzvahs? So he brings an idea. He says that when you're coming from a makom rachuk, he says Pesach is about Klal Yisrael being in Mitzrayim, being very distant from Hashem, and needing to push away their connection to Avodah Zarah that they had learned in Mitzrayim, and to be davek to the Shechina. And therefore, the Maharsha explains that when you're trying to bring together, bring Klal Yisrael back after a situation of Richuk, then you need the Tamei HaMitzvos to get you back into the proper mindset. In other words, the Tamei HaMitzvos are something that makes the mitzvahs relevant. It makes us feel connected to the mitzvahs. And therefore, b'davka, the mitzvahs of Pesach, which relate to Klal Yisrael drawing close to Hashem and coming from a makom rachok, coming closer to Hashem, so davka, those mitzvahs, the tamim are an essential part. Whereas in general, throughout the year, the Tamei HaMitzvos are kind of like an add-on and something extra, not required. But here we have an extra emphasis on the importance of appreciating the Tamei HaMitzvos, because people coming from a distance need that meshicha, that attraction of understanding Tamei HaMitzvos, of being able to relate to and connect to the mitzvahs. That helps people to draw close. So that's maybe a general idea of why our generation puts so much more emphasis on the understanding of the Tamei HaMitzvos, the Inyanei Agadata, that because our generation feels more distant from the mitzvahs, distant from Hashem, the difficulties of the generations of being in Galus, so we need the Tamei HaMitzvos all the more so to draw us closer, to help us to connect, to feel a shaykhus to the mitzvahs, and to do the mitzvahs with more enthusiasm. So like our avoda has this bechina of Yetzias Mitzrayim, that we have to use the Tamei HaMitzvos to help us to draw closer to Hashem. Okay, so that's so that is the so that's a message we can take away. Why the Inyanim of Pesach, we focus so much on the Agadata, the Tamei HaMitzvos, and the understanding of the mitzvahs to help to draw us close. Okay, very good. So have a Chag Kosher Sameach, everyone, and keep safe. Bye bye. If any questions, I'll stay on for a minute. Anyone has any
Thank you,
questions?
Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Pleasure.
Can I ask you,
Yeah.
can I ask you about the